Welcome back, everybody. It's time to wrap up The Dragon Reborn. I've been waiting for it. I finished the book last night. Well, not last night, last afternoon, and didn't want to record two videos in one go and, let things settle for a bit. That kind of thing. But now it's time to wrap it up, talk about the last couple of chapters. That's either chapter 43 or chapter 44, somewhere around there, and we're going all the way to, chapter 56, the end of it. The people of the fucking dragon. So yeah, let's do that, shall we? Well, cheers. All right. So, basically, it's sort of like a continuation of what we talked about yesterday, which is everyone is running to Tyr. And then we get like a big magic showdown in the Rocketeer, which is sort of where you get your Excalibur, which is not Excalibur, but the other thing. And I already forgot the name of that magic sword again, because, whatever. Now, what's interesting about that stuff and what's not so interesting about it, and what did I like and what did I not like? So, first of all, it was okay. I did not like the overall showdown because it's sort of a repetition of the one before. So we'll go into that at the end. Let's look at the individual rest of the plot. We have obviously Matt is sort of like the one where we get more of, and unfortunately it's not that good. But it kind of is that triplet pattern that we get sort of hinted at before, and now we kind of get the whole thing at this point of the book, which is there's a lot of those damn Forsaken out there, and apparently they all started to become trusted advisors, high lords, counselors, what have you, of all kinds of countries, and are stirring war and being dickheads. And we kind of saw that started with the whole war thing going on when they take the boat down the river, and there's war in Carrion, whatever. I learned to pronounce those names at some point. No, I don't promise. And then we get another hint, because on the river captain talks to Matt and what's his name, Tom Maryland about it, right? They talk about how he talks about how that new High Lord in Tyr is going to set everything right and is basically advocating for war. And then if we want to be very, very, very charitable to Robert Jordan, which I tend to do, then maybe the idea that Andor is pushing back refugees from Cairn, that city-state that does not know how to do the game. Anyway, that it's pushing back refugees is also a sign that not all is well in Andor. And, then we find out that there's another one of them Forsaken. Samael is apparently in, Ilion. And then obviously we find out that High Lord in Tyr is another Forsaken, which is Belal. So of course at this point we've kind of figured out that most of those Forsaken, not all of them, but a lot of them have names that once again we kind of know from our mythology. So there's however to pronounce that, Belial, that guy, and there's more of them. We also find out in Camelin that the new counselor and maybe lover of Queen Morghese is another one of them. It's not explicitly said, but it's strongly hinted that he's another one of them, because he's obviously trying to get Elaine killed, and Matt overhears that. So yeah. And obviously Matt decides to rush to Tyr as well, because up to this point, we didn't have Matt or Tom at the showdown location, so obviously that will happen now as well. I don't know. I said that before, that this kind of structure, at this point, those first three books have the same kind of structure, and it becomes annoying at this point, because you kind of know where it will go at around the halfway point. Now, I've heard, and I know some of you have said that in the comments, that this will change with the next book, which I'll start on Monday, I think. However, yeah. Here it is kind of annoying to have the whole thing go that way. And at this point, it becomes all very, very just quick travel kind of thing. And sort of moving towards that big showdown. There's a bunch of interesting things going on that I appreciate. The way the wise woman mother, I've forgotten her name, in Tyr is, you know, the wise witch woman, and they have their like witch off with Nynaeve. That bit I actually kind of did like. Egwene was once again behaving really like really stupidly, and I once again found it annoying. Um, but yeah, there we go. At the end of the day, everyone is in Ilion, not in Ilion, is in Tyr and is deciding to do stuff. And of course, everyone enters the Rock of Tyr through all kinds of ways for the big showdown. And suddenly there's 200 Aiel helping Rand, and he takes the sword and kills someone, maybe a bit, or whatever. And yeah, Baalzamon or maybe Ishamael gets to do some more of his like really dumb speeches. Yeah, so, and at the end of the day, he's even more the Dragon Reborn than before, and everyone is now really happy to have him there. Cool, right? Frankly, that whole thing felt like a disappointment. Like, I've said it like before. I really enjoyed that bit around the White Tower in Tar Valon. That was actually good. It kind of worked. I did enjoy that. I did not, and there's other bits that I enjoy. The whole like Perrin doing some smith work and having to figure out, or like still wanting to be a peaceful person, be a smith, getting the hammer. That bit I actually also really enjoyed. It was cool. It gives like more character depth to Perrin. Perrin is like the one that actually has some sort of character at this point, I feel. I appreciate that. Now that Nynaeve has become kind of weird and I can no longer really fully like support Nynaeve, I do definitely feel like Perrin is the one that feels the most human at this point compared to any of the others. Possibly Elaine, but we don't have that much from Elaine so far, so I'm holding my horses on that front. Everyone else sucks. I'll just put it mildly. Everyone else sucks or behaves irrationally and in an unbelievable way. So yeah, there we are. Now let's look at those things that I found unconvincing. Now the big, and I just said like that first bit I found cool, like everyone trying to make their way. There's new threats. We get a setup for the whole, like, we need 13 of them, and we need 13 of that to set up that, like, that press ganging towards evil thing, I guess, is what we could call it, right? So that is set up, and then it just never materializes at all. So I was like, why did you include that? Why did you tell me all that stuff and set it up? And I was like, oh, there's 13 of them. They have all those magical Game Boy things and whatnot, the Tangreals, whatever you want, they have all of that. They're definitely planning something. Balal is like, yeah, I've also asked for like a bunch of murder rolls. Like, oh shit, they're really planning this. And then he just like drops the ball on it. I mean, just to have another lackluster, everyone is just running around chaotically, and at the end, Rand and Baalzamon get their like, I'll take you dead or alive, motherfucker speech again. And I don't know. It just feels like so much wasted potential at this point, and I really hope things will change with the next one, because frankly, if it's going to be the same kind of structure, like everyone doing starting something cool and then having to, I don't know, transport to some random place on the map to do something dumb, and then Baalzamon gets to do the same 5 lines again, no. I don't know what I'll do, but I'll definitely be pissed off at this point. So that's sort of where I want to go with this, right? So let's try to structure this a bit more. My mind's all over the place. I'm not, not in the best place mentally right now, but, the games have to go on. All right, so what did I mean by that? The overall battle at the Rock of Tyr just is not very good. The idea of having some people do stuff in the dream world and some people doing stuff in the real world, that's actually a really cool idea. Having Perrin do his own thing, helping Falcon Lady, what's her name? Zareen? Not Nazarene, but Zareen. I've learned something. Zareen. It feels weird because up to that point, Perrin is always like annoyed by her, but of course he does the honor, the honorable thing and helps her. So while his motivation might not be super strong, it's still like a nice thing to have him do the whole Dream Quest kind of thing. I like that. That was fun. Egwene doing like magic things and starting to, hold people in the dreamland so the veil can go down. Yeah, that kind of worked too. But the like Rand just wandering in, walking to the central place. Okay, Matt using the fireworks to blow off a hole in the wall. Yeah, I don't know. Suddenly there's like 200 Aiel people. It's like, how uber are those people? See, this once again, this idea that there's like, I mean, this is fantasy, and I know the word realism has nothing to do with it, but still, it's like, there's like 100 terrorists, basically, scaling that place. Castles in this world suck. Seriously, castles in the Wheel of Time are terrible. Their security is terrible. Matt can just waltz into the castle in Camelin through the same known security hole that that they already know about since book 1. And you tell me that they just kind of forgot to do anything about that problem? It's like, I don't know. And then there's like roughly 150 people walking into the officially best fortified castle in the entire world, and it's possible. It's like, and see, this is sort of like goes to the next bit that I have issues with, that I have held back on too far so far, but I feel it's time to talk about it, right? Robert Jordan is a fan of details, right? He is a huge fan of giving us absolutely unnecessary details. Now, I don't mind that, right? It's like telling me how stuff looks is cool. It helps me, imagine stuff. Maybe get closer in my imagination to Robert Jordan's imagination, although I hope not. Anyway, so that's fine, but whenever it kind of matters, it drops. Now maybe I'm like a bit, spoiled by having read stuff by, like Malazan, for example. Well, I'll just use Malazan here for a bit because I've done so much Malazan stuff last year. But it's like when Steven Erikson or Cam Asselman talk about details, like actual, like important details of buildings, fortifications, ships, and stuff, you can tell that they know what they are talking about. It makes sense. Fortifications make sense. Ships make sense. They work in a proper way. And that kind of doesn't come through here. It's like, yes, there's a castle in the middle of Fortress of the Queen in the middle of a city. Camelin. We're back in Camelin for a second here. And for whatever reason, it's possible for someone to just climb a wall into the garden, meet the princess and the prince, like heirs of the crown, without anyone finding them for like 20 minutes. All right, but they get discovered by the watch, like the guards and shit, right? So what happens? Bloody nothing, because a year later, a different farm boy can do the exact same bloody thing. It's like, how stupid do I have to be? And then we come to the Rock of Tyr. It's like, I don't know, this huge castle. It's full of armies and it's impregnable. But you can walk up to like the actual wall of it and blow. Yeah, there's like climbing involved, but still, you can blow just like a hole into the wall with fireworks. I mean, I don't know how many castles you guys have been to. That's not how that shit works. I mean, yeah, you can potentially walk up to a castle wall, depending on what kind of castle we're talking about. But no, you have guards checking that kind of stuff. Especially if this is, sort of like heightened circumstances because everyone is already in something of a panic. Now, is it possible, if I play, Balzamon's advocate here, is it possible that Balal is, like, keeping back the guards so his, people can walk into his, like, oh, so cunning trap, which doesn't actually exist because there's no actual trap going on there, right? Let's just, like, be clear, there is no fucking trap. And is that possible? Yeah, maybe it's possible, but if that is the case, then it would really help to, at some point, make a hint towards that. Because right now, I'm doing the heavy lifting here. I'm the one who's like, maybe, I'm theorizing, maybe the guards weren't there because big bad whatever dude said, like, don't be there so his trap can work. If you don't do that, it just feels like really sloppy fortress planning. And if that's the case, like, how are you planning to ever take over the fucking world, Evil Corp? I don't know. So just, one of those things. Now let's look at the whole setup, right? Why are the girls taken into the prison, right? Like, Rand is coming there, no matter... Rand doesn't even know the girls are there. So it's like, why are they... bait for the trap? What fucking trap? There is no fucking trap. No one ever fucking told Rand that the girls are in the fucking dungeon. And no one knew, like apart from, I guess, Matt, no one knows that the girls are in the dungeon. And Matt doesn't know that. Rand is. It's like, so there's no bloody trap. It just feels like... It just doesn't make any sense. Like, doesn't Evil have any planning sessions in this book? Like, don't they ever communicate with each other? Like, how fucking incompetent are those people? Like, it just, the whole thing falls down at this point, right? It kind of worked in Eye of the World because everyone was in one group, and that one group walks there to do the dumb thing at the Eye of the World. It already felt kind of forced in The Great Hunt. Because, yeah, the one group goes there to hunt Padan Fain, and the other group is there because, of the Black Aja sending them exactly also there for no reason whatsoever, but at least it kind of makes sense. This time around, we have way more moving parts, right? We have 4 groups of people. We have the Girl Squad, we have Rand, we have... Perrin and Moraine and gang, and we have Matt and Tom. We have 4 different groups, 4 separate groups, and apart from 2 of them, sort of, no one has any reason to be there. And no one really, like, the only one who really wants to go into that fucking castle is Rand. And his motivation is already there. It's like, take that bloody sword. That's what he wants to do. So we don't need the girls there. We don't need to actually lure the girls there to build a trap because the trap is already there. It is already baited with a bloody sword, for fuck's sake. So why do that bit? Then we have Moraine. Well, she follows Rand because she believes that Rand isn't, fit to actually take up the sword already or whatever. So yeah. And then she decides to go in there because there's a master demon in there. Bilal is already there. Alright. And then there's Matt, who just... is irrational and random at this point, but, whatever. Let him be random. Wondering, is that random thing like a hint towards the Amber books by Roger Zelazny? Now, that's something that I need to think about at some point. But just saying, that the whole setup for that big battle to have everyone in the rock doesn't make any sense because there's, like, vital information missing, right? If there was a situation where Rand would know about the girls being there, like Egwene, Elaine, and whatnot being in there, yeah, maybe. Then they would make sense as something of a bait. But at this point, the 3 from the tower are just bait for Matt, and no one actually thinks about Matt. So no one plans to bait Matt into that castle. And don't come at me with bloody Ta'veren. Ta'veren, like shit to do with that. Tyrion doesn't fucking care about any of that. It just does not make any sense. And also, we can have another one of those really cheesy and dumb confrontations between Rand and Alzamon. I don't know. It just didn't work out for me at all. Like, at this point, I just didn't care about it anymore. It was like, yeah, well, whatever. I know there's gonna be another like 13 books, not 12 books. 12 books? 11 books. There's gonna be another 11 books out there. He'll survive all right. I don't bloody care. And that just, I don't know, it just made me angry at this point because it felt so unnecessary in its construction. It just felt so completely unnecessary at this point. And I really hope this changes. I mean, y'all have promised me that it changes, and if not, I'm gonna be angry. I'm gonna be pissed because that is just lazy and dumb and shitty storytelling, and I don't need that in my life. And if you think that is exactly, that makes Wheel of Time a good book, then I'm sorry to say, but you're wrong. All right. What else is there to talk about? Stuff that annoyed me. Now, I already said that there is that issue with everyone having like one or two actions, and it's even more of like maybe I'm just like really picky at this point. It's possible, but it's like people are giving Steven Erikson shit for using the word ochre a lot of times, and the word ochre standing out. Here, there's like a bunch, like every character has their one signature move. It feels like one of those like early 90s computer games with like one or two character animations or one or two lines of dialogue for most of the NPCs that you only meet once. And it's exactly that. It's like Nynaeve has her tugging the braid animation, and he overdoes it. Tom Merrilin is at every possible moment he's blowing out his mustaches, which, I don't know, sounds hard to do. I mean, I've tried it, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't really work well. But maybe I don't have the kind of mustaches, I just have too much like general face thicket there. Anyway, point is, he has that one. Then we have like the general women always crossing their arms under their breasts, so I guess they are better, more visible. I don't know. It's just like every single time. Matt always says blood and bloody ashes. I do like blood and bloody ashes more. At least bloody ashes is a fairly decent curse. It's not, Hoiron's twisted cock or Hood's bony prang, but we're getting there. Compared to most of the other cursing in that book, this is actually okay, but it's also overdone. It shows up every single time Matt says something. Maybe that's because the problem there is that we're always seeing everyone in the tell don't show kind of way through like one other perspective, and we have to put it in there, ramming it home again and again and again. But it becomes so annoying. It really feels like they only have that one action, and that's all they can do all the time. And that, I don't want to, rant on it too much, but it feels unnecessary, and a better editor would have been able to kind of, catch that, I feel. So I'm also ranting not only at Robert Jordan, but also at his editor. All right, so once again, what do we have? The whole setup for the end doesn't make any sense because we bring all those people there, and the only person who actually needs to be there is Rand. Everyone else is just following Rand, and maybe you want that because, I don't know, but then why is everyone in the castle before Rand? That doesn't work out well. Then we have the whole setup with like the 13 and 13 and 13 to change someone to the dark side, and that just never gets mentioned. Instead, like 2 Black Aja are getting captured. And that's it. Now they're only 11, so apparently they can't do that anymore for now, at least. We need to find 2 more. Possibly. Maybe. Who knows? Right. I don't know. It just feels like a lost opportunity, and then makes me wonder why you set up that stuff. Just to not use it at any point in the future. It's like, oh, there's all that fear, and then it just like doesn't happen. It's like, if it is a setup for something in, like, I don't know, 5 books in the future, which is obviously still possible because now we know it is possible to do that, then yeah, that's fine. But why build up the tension now and let it just like dissolve into nothing? That may work for like keyboard solos in 70s prog rock, but it doesn't necessarily work for fantasy novels. Just saying. All right, let's look at the battle. The battle, obviously, with Rand is once again the same dumb thing as before, and a repetition of before, and thus very, very boring. And at the end, he defeats Baalzamon again. Now, obviously, it seems he defeated a man who is obviously not Baalzamon, because Baalzamon can't be killed that easily. And I kind of get that. He may be Ishamael, but I kind of doubt that it is Ishamael either, because, you know, that would mean that basically we just lost 2 of the 13 Forsaken in one go. And that just I mean, for something that is supposed to be super fucking powerful, those fuckers go down real easy at this point. I'm like, I don't know, but especially making use of Belial felt really shitty. Also, didn't we already lose like 2 more Forsaken back in the beginning at Eye of the World? So there's already 4 of them gone, or they kind of pop up again and again, and death is completely meaningless in this book. As I've heard, that's something to be criticize. Just saying. Anyway, yeah, that just didn't really work out for me. So what did work? What didn't work beyond that in this book? I felt the idea of having all these Forsaken take over the land, make their way into the councils of the powerful, and then just go for war, I found interesting as an idea. If you come to the, you know, if the plan is to just like throw everything into chaos, create a lot of blood and bloody ashes, I guess, to create the atmosphere or whatever to help awaken the Dark One. You know, something like Glenn Cook does with the Books of the South, spoiler for Black Company here, and the idea of the Year of the Skull, where you have these ideas like, I mean, it's obviously once again something taken from a thought. It was like, yeah, before Armageddon, or in this case Tarmageddon or whatever it's called, will happen, these and these aspects of prophecy need to be fulfilled. It's why some of the really hardcore evangelical Christians out there want Jews to be in Israel, because the Jews have to return there before the second coming. So I kind of get that idea, if that's what is going on. But if that's what is going on, then it never gets mentioned. It's like, for someone who's spending so much time to talk about rubbish, Robert Jordan is really bad at actually dropping in necessary hints from time to time. I mean, the only setup we get somewhere for that Dark Hound, who is whatever, kind of not a Hound of Tyndalos, is once again that we see that one paw print earlier on. Perrin sees that, and then we see one on the wall. It's like, why does that powerful pony-sized dog put a paw print on a stone on the wall? Is just to mark something, because he couldn't just put like a white cross or anything on there? I don't know, but he's very good at like not giving us any information. All the people are really good at like not asking questions when they get told something, and then he just like spends ages describing a fucking stable or how it feels to scrub pots. Spoiler: it sucks, but I kind of get that. And that's sort of where I have the issue with this book. It has great elements, once again. The introduction of the dream world is really cool. How they interact and being different possibilities. That's really cool stuff. Perrin's kind of dream quest to save Zareen is a cool place. Although suddenly he also has taken on accepted the name Fail Falcon for whatever reasons. All of that, fine. But then he just like fails it all in the end, because that whole bit doesn't make any real sense. It's like, yes, I don't know, what's his name? Perrin tells that he's going to Tyr, so obviously that group of Aiel runs towards Tyr. And what their names, Egwene and Nynaeve tell their group of Aiel that they're going to Tyr. So all of those Aiel figure out that that's obviously where the Muad'Dib has to come show up. Well, not Muad'Dib, but Randa Deep. I have no idea. And that's how that works, and suddenly everyone is there, and then we find out that they have been prepared for like the coming of their savior, and we need to talk about that at some point, the parallel between Dune and here, and I want to wait until I get a bit more Aiel information, which will hopefully happen in the next book or two. Because there's obvious parallels here, and not all of them work out really well. I don't know. Then there's that whole idea of how shitty the Black Aja are. It's like, see, I'm struggling already. It's like, this book has great ideas, and then Robert Jordan fails at executing any of them. What he does is he becomes so crude and crass in his depictions of stuff that all these like actual clever ideas just fall apart. Then he builds up a completely unbelievable and unnecessarily complex showdown while dropping all the actual interesting ideas like that, like 13 kind of turning thing, which just like is no longer mentioned, and having a complex trap that doesn't even work because no one really knows the girls are on that fucking island except Matt, and no one cares about Matt, and it's repeatedly mentioned that no one cares about Matt. I don't know. Plus Matt's randomness, and I really want to find out more about that, because it's an interesting concept. It's not a good concept, but it's an interesting concept. At least it's not a good one happening so far. It's like he's very, very lucky if he just is really random, and then like fate will just do whatever it wants with him, and it will turn out right. I'm sure there's some flaws in there that we can point out if we really try hard, but so far we don't, because he's also ta'veren. I don't know. It just like started out so promising, this book, and then it ended in like this whole like I don't care anymore kind of thing, and I'm really wondering where this will be going next, because it feels so aimless at this point. There's like no real stakes. I mean, yeah, apparently the creator is still in Shale Ghul and is trying to get free, and we need to talk about the whole like not well done dualism there as well at some point, and I hope that stuff gets explained in the future. So far it isn't. Then we have the whole question, why is Tom Maryland even in this book? Because he doesn't provide anything at all in this story. You look at it. Matt picks up drunk Tom, drags his ass to fucking Camelin, then Matt does everything alone there, once again, right? Matt does everything on his own there in Camelin, meeting, the Queen, going on, all of that. Then he drags Tom's ass to Tyr, where Tom promptly catches the fucking cold, and that's like the only function that Tom Maryland has in this book, is forcing Matt to go back to that wise woman. That's the only function Tom has in this book. We would not need Tom Maryland for this. It could have been any other thing. Matt could have caught the fucking cough there, right? I mean, Matt, he's already called coffin, for fuck's sake. He could have done it. It's like, this is unnecessary. We're dragging around characters here that are completely unnecessary for the story that's to be told. You could have had the entire story work out with just Rand walking into the castle, into the rock, getting the sword and getting out. Or doing the whole thing. We could have done that. The entire thing. Or maybe the Aiel showing up to help him, if we really need that. And the whole Matt, Tom, and the girls arc, they are completely unnecessary in Tyr. They were already kind of like the girls were already kind of unnecessary in Tome and Head and Folmar at the end of Great Hunt. But here it just feels contrived for. I have to have all of them at the same place for the big showdown because I don't know, big showdown, I guess. And that's what annoys me here. It feels so, I don't know, unnecessary and clumsily done. Also, we need to talk about the balefire thing, because apparently, suddenly, everyone knows how to do balefire. Nynaeve knows, for whatever reason. Moiraine knows, for whatever reason. And once again, she's like, I've learned so much in the last year. So yeah, I know where she spent her time in the last year. That's like hanging out with her librarian Aes Sedai buddies somewhere for a couple of months during the Great Hunt. Could she have found books that explain how to do balefire there? Possibly. But, Bobby J, working on your great foreshadowing. Pulling in all these like quotes that she reads in that place, all these boring quotes that don't matter that much. Why not put a fucking line about balefire in there? For the reader to read, it's like, oh, it got mentioned before. No, it doesn't. He realizes he needs more firepower in The Dragon Reborn, so suddenly Moiraine has it. It's like, yeah, I found out in the last year. I know so much now. Why? No one knows. Same for Nynaeve. She just can do it now. Having it like gone backwards with like that dream from the Tangrael, initiation thing that Egwene does. Yeah, that would work, but she's the only one who doesn't know how to use it. She just hears about balefire and uses it in her in that future in that Ghost of Future Christmas story. But everyone else just suddenly can do it. It's like, why not set it up properly? And I feel this is sort of like what annoys me with this book. And I will still say it was more fun than the other two, up to around the halfway mark. After that, it had some good ideas, but the ending is possibly the worst one of the lot so far, because of its just like completely like illogical way it's handled, and like the whole thing feels so amateurish. It's like if this would be like a D&D campaign that I would play or GM, I was like, yeah, well, you know what? We're all playing this stuff for whatever. But this is a published novel that is considered to be a great piece of fantasy literature, influential, beloved. How did that happen? Why is no one saying, like, you know what, Robert Jordan, this doesn't make any sense. Why didn't his editor say that? Why didn't the other editor? Why didn't the publisher? Why? This is like 30 years old. Anyway, I should not be so angry. I also have more important things to do today than just like keep on raging at this book and so much more. To sum it up, I did really enjoy some bits. I really hope there's going to be more of the lighthearted stuff. I kind of doubt it does. And Robert Jordan is going to go more into epicness. He doesn't do epic well. We need to talk about what does epic actually mean. That's probably like an idea that we should talk about in a separate general video in the next couple of days, because Robert Jordan sucks at it. I'm just saying. And like that battle is just like, yeah, so everyone has more firepower, that makes it better. No, it doesn't. It just makes it more firepower, more explosions. That's not necessarily better. Yeah, so I'm suspecting that there's going to be more war. I hope that finally we'll get some answers to like cultures that actually, you know, make sense, maybe a bit like Aiel stuff, because right now it still feels very, very Fremen, and Matt is Paul Muad'Dib. Well, he's Rand Muad'Dib apparently, but you know what I mean. Will that all work out? I don't know. We have 11 books to go. Where is all of this leading at this point is what I'm asking, because it felt like every of those 3 books so far could have been the end of a story, right? It ends with a kind of shitty confrontation of Ba'alzamon and Rand. It never does. But it feels like we're going round and round. I mean, I know it's supposed to be the wheel of time, but I didn't think it should be that repetitive already. So yeah, we'll see where that is going in the future. We already have, we still have at least two. We still have two Forsaken Loose running different countries. At least we have the guy, is it Gabriel? Something like Gabriel in Camelin with Queen Morgaze, and that's certainly something that will need to be addressed relatively soon because, you know, Elaine and stuff. And on the other side, there is whoever is in Ilion, you know, Samael and Ilion, and those will have to be addressed at some point. Plus, we have, you know, Rand has an army now. Also, there's that like one woman showing up at the end that doesn't really make any sense yet, but she's apparently very, very full of herself. The first of another kingdom I have already forgotten, because who cares about all those fucking kingdoms that just get mentioned once, right? Also, the whole White Cloak thing. Isn't it fascinating how the White Cloaks are mentioned right at the beginning, and then they just like vanish in nothingness? Like, why put that in the prologue of a novel and just like never mention it again? It's like, yeah, they're supposed to do whatever, to kill Matt and Rand and Perrin apparently, but like, it feels like he's put so many bits and pieces on the table that he doesn't know what to do with them. A bit like, you know, George R. R. Martin did with like Feast for Crows and Dance with Dragons, when suddenly there's like whole new plot lines and you're like, oh, I don't care anymore. And this is sort of where I'm going into the next book. I'll start on Monday with Shadow Rising. Rising, I think? Something like that. But I have no idea how Robert Jordan will be able to actually drag the card back out of the ditch that he's driven the whole story into at this point. I generally don't care about any of the characters, maybe a bit about Perrin, and maybe, just maybe about Elaine. Not really. Everyone else has become super annoying, is snapping at each other all the fucking time, and or behaving irrational as fuck. I have no idea where this will be going. I'm genuinely, you know, curious to find out, though. So, yeah, I'll do something fun over the weekend, and I'll be back on Monday talking about, well, the Shadow Rising. So have a great weekend. Cheers.